At times of uncertainty and in moments of doubt, some of our much-loved and well-used children's hymns ensure that even as adults, biblical stories and verses surface in our thoughts, offering reassurance. In Matthew's Gospel, chapter 7, we hear these words at verse 25. The rain fell, the floods came, and the winds blew and beat on that house, but it did not fall because it had been founded on rock. Because of a children's song, we recognise the verses coming from Jesus' story of the wise and foolish attempts at house building. Through the experience of the COVID-19 pandemic, it's been part of the biblical reminders of the care that can be offered in Christ's name. For the Housing and Loan Fund, that care comes in the form of 4 walls that provide a place of safety and shelter from all that's happening in the world. In 2020 to 21, our homes, in whatever shape they come, have often been the centre of our world. They've been more than the usual places for living and sleeping. For more people, they have become workspaces, the space for our leisure activities, and portals to the online communities of which we're now part. In December 2020, the Health Foundation circulated the report Better Housing is Crucial for Our Health and the COVID-19 Recovery. While focusing on wider community health, it reported that feeling secure in your home is important for health and well-being, and it can provide a sense of continuity and stability for other areas of life. The trustees of the General Assembly of the Church of Scotland Housing and Loan Fund for retired ministers and widows and widowers are grateful for a previous generation of commissioners to the General Assembly who in 1969 considered the provision of a home for those entering retirement and the intention of ensuring that there is a place to call home for those who seek the support of the fund. Where once the Housing and Loan Fund was bolstered by congregational contributions, in recent years the careful stewardship of the fund has led to a healthy financial position. Keen to ensure that the funds held were best able to serve those for whom they were intended, the trustees regularly review the current and potential future activity to weigh up the continuing level of demand for provision of housing for those in retirement. Not all retirement or need for housing is predictable, and the fund continues to be available to those who are moving from stipend and manse to a pension and their own home, whether that be purchased or rented. As I present the rest of the report, you will see some of the comments made by those who have sought and received help and support from the Housing and Loan Fund during this past year. From the report, you will see that we presently own 197 houses which are let to retired ministers or to bereaved spouses or civil partners of ministers, or to the separated or divorced spouses of ministers. In return, the tenants pay 1/2 of the market rent of their houses, assessed at their date of entry, reducing to 1/4 of the market rent in the case of bereaved spouses and civil partners. In addition, the fund has in place loans to 110 retired ministers who, along with their own savings, had sufficient funds in total to enable them to purchase a house of their own. So between rental properties and loans, the fund does presently assist 307 retired ministers or their bereaved spouses or civil partners, and separated or divorced spouses with housing. One consequence of having such an extensive housing portfolio is that houses do become vacant on a fairly regular basis, not all of which can be re-let to new applicants for a variety of sound reasons. These are then sold on the open market, and at the moment, the trustees are marketing or preparing to market 9 such properties. Despite keeping the marketing under constant review, on occasion a house sticks, and in such a case, where circumstances are appropriate and acceptable, the trustees will consider re-letting the property on the open market at a commercial rent, as we are currently doing with 3 properties. To continue our present retirement housing assistance and to meet the commitments we already know of over the next 5 years, amounting to a £5.5 million, the trustees require to steward their funds carefully and with regard to our beneficiaries' ability to pay, be they tenants or borrowers. The trustees do therefore annually set parameters, fixing, among other things, the maximum value of property they will purchase for a tenant or upon which they will lend to a borrower. We continue to provide retirement housing for applicants who fit into our parameters for assistance, and also to improve and update, where possible, the quality of our housing stock. But we must therefore also continue to apply our stewardship to ensure we have resources in hand, not only to meet the commitments we've given, but also the unexpected and often urgent applications that come before us. Last year, for example, the trustees approved 15 applications for houses to rent and 12 applications for long-term loans. At all times, the trustees have discretion and will exercise that discretion to adapt their arrangements in particular cases of need. The COVID-19 pandemic brought additional challenges for the fund's staff, as like many, they were required to work from home. Hazel Bett, the secretary, and Hilary Hardy, the property manager, clearly demonstrated their resilience and adaptability as they established new patterns for working, including the regular visits, most of which have been postponed and translated into calls. For a brief period, when the housing market was put on hold, both offered helpful advice and support to those who were waiting to move. The Law Department offered great support and advice during this time. Regular maintenance and repairs were also hindered by the COVID-19 pandemic, and we hope that the Secretary and the Property Manager will be able to return to more usual practices of visits, maintenance and repairs during this year. The Property Manager covered the role of the support assistants during the first 8 months of COVID-19. The support assistant then made the decision to retire, and we're grateful to John Lunn for the work he's done for the fund. We welcomed a new part-time member of staff, Selina MacArthur, to continue to offer support to the work of the staff, the staff undertake on the fund's behalf. While much church life is changing, there's still need for the work of the Housing and Loan Fund. We hope to continue to offer the secure foundation of a home for those who are traversing the sometimes uneasy waters of retirement or changing patterns of living. If you paused on the opening pages of our report, you will notice only 2 deliverances. The first, as with all reports, is to receive the report. The second is to approve a new trustee, Sharon Ho. Following interview, Mrs. Ho was considered to be an excellent candidate for trustee. She's involved in her local church, serving on the pastoral care team, and has appropriate professional and personal experience that will be of benefit to the fund. She's been briefed upon the fund's purposes and what her duties and responsibilities will be, and agreed to be so appointed. As we welcome a new trustee, we will be saying goodbye to another as Gavin Burt retires from the fund at this time. Gavin has brought much thoughtful wisdom in his service to the fund. We would like to thank Gavin for his contribution to the work of the Housing and Loan Fund. Finally, my thanks go to all of the trustees who have demonstrated great commitment in the continuing work of the fund, adapting quickly to online meetings and the wealth of information that they are sent for consideration. The Housing and Loan Fund benefits from a great wealth of knowledge across finance, law, property, community care and ministry, all of which is invaluable in the discussions and decisions to which they lead.